Greetings, my friends. Today's lesson is about something called the caged system. You'll all have heard of it. I'd heard of it years ago. I didn't know what the hell it was. I wish I had, because my ignorance cost me lots of sleepless nights figuring out how George Harrison played Here Comes the Sun in the key of A, and yet it sounded nothing like my A. We'll get into that in a minute. First thing, before we go any further, please press the like thing or the thumbs up. Presumably you're going to like what we're going to do, or subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and also download your free paperwork, which is on the blue link in the description box, which will help you understand what we're going to do. It's easy, this, it really is, but it's very, very important. It's one of those things that I wish I'd known years ago, and I'm not just saying it, it's true, and you'll be glad you've spent a little bit of time with me now doing it. Don't run off if the ad comes on. Have a cup of tea and just watch it. It's very important that we do this, and you'll benefit greatly from it. All right. This is the last in a series of 8 masterclasses I've been doing, predominantly for beginners. All right. Once we've done this 8th one, and you've looked at the others if you've not seen them before, then that'll bring you up to speed with all the other things that I tend to put up on a Saturday. All right, all the new vids, and there's about 300 of them already, so there's tons of stuff there. So let's look at this one, and that should bring you up to speed with everything else that's on the channel. Right, caged, what does it mean? It's nothing sinister. All it's referring to are the names of the 5 chords that we all know and love in the open position. For example, C, A, G, E and D. Caged. That's all it means. First letter of each name of each chord. C, A, G, E, D. So that's that bit of mystery solved. Alright? I thought it was something really weird and odd, but it's not. Now, why is it important? What is it about this system? Well, one of the things that we don't want to do, if you're playing in a band and you've got 2 or 3 guitarists, and say for example there's a song and it's in the key of D and we're going to be playing the chord D, we don't all want to be playing that inversion of chord. Okay, so somebody that may have just started could play this particular inversion, the one that we all know. But if you want to get a much richer sound, it would be nice if we could use another shape that we know, but still play the chord D. How can we do that? Well, let's look at C to start with. The root note, the bass note for C, is here on the 5th string at the 3rd fret. We know that because the string when it's played open from our tuning is A sharp, B, C. Now if I wanted to turn that shape, okay, currently it's C because it lives here. If I wanted to turn that into a D shape, it would be nice if I could just go C, C sharp, D. This finger is now telling me that the root note there is D, so I'm in the right place, but I have a major problem. This nut here, this thing that's called a nut, that needs to be moved up the same amount of frets, in this case 2. So what are we going to do? Well, we've got a choice. We can either put a capo on to do that there, which will take the place of that, da, or, which is a bit more difficult, we would put a finger across, which is like a bar chord, like that, and we would play the C shape like this, which is a lot more difficult, but that's the way classical players would do it. Okay, so do you get where we're going with this? If I wanted to turn that shape, now we know this is the chord D because this finger here is the root note, that's telling us what it is. If I wanted to turn this shape into an E, if it's D here, D, D sharp, E. Let's put it to the test. And that's all it is. So that's using the chord C. Key to it, of course, and remember this, the important bit, where does your root note live? You've got to know where it lives in its open position, so when you're moving it up, you know where you you know, when to stop, where to put your capo. So if you're moving it here to a D, da, 1, 2, you put your capo 1, 2 to take the place of this. All right. So we've used C. The next chord, A, we move this one quite a lot anyway when we're playing. You know, it's one of the two shapes that we move around a lot. This is one of them, the other being E. Let's look at the A now. Our root note for A, again, is the 5th string. I always play it with these 3 fingers, by the way. I like to keep this free for what I'm about to do. There's our A bass note, and there's our A major chord. If I wanted to turn this shape into a C, or let's turn it into a D, shall we? Like, let's pretend that somebody's playing that D, the guy playing the C is doing this one, and we need to find another one. I'd say, well, okay, well, I'll try and use the A shape and make a D out of this. How would I do it? Well, A, I'd move it up, but I have to take this, so A sharp, B, C, C sharp, and D. So we've got 3 inversions now playing the same chord, and if you're in a recorded studio, you're playing live, then that's going to sound really, really fantastic. And when you spread them around in the stereo picture, then it gets really exciting. Okay, the next one is a G. So you got 3 players now, and somebody else has walked in. He wants to play the chord D, and you say, well, you know, you go find your own. You go find another way of doing it. So he's going to say, okay, well, I only know the chord G. How can I turn the G into the chord D? How can I put the shape G, I should say, into the chord D? Well, when we play the chord G, our root note, our bass note, lives here. How do we know that? Because we know that that's E when it's played open, F at fret 1, E, F, F sharp, and G. Whenever you're not sure of a root note, always go back to where you do know your datum point, your open strings when you're tuning up. So we know that that's our G note. Now if I want to turn that into the chord D, I would do this: G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D. And I'm going to be clever and put a finger here. It's difficult. You never see anyone doing it like this. So there's the inversion if using the G shape. There's the other one with the A. There's the one using the C moved up, if I can get my fingers in the right place. And the easy one. All right. So we've done the G. Now we're going to do the E shape. Now this is one that we move around a lot as well. Now we know that the chord E, the root note, is here. Now we'll have done this already. We already know a bit of this because presumably we will have attempted to play the chord F, right? Which is this shape moved up with a bar, okay? And then hopefully it'll start to click now. Say, oh yeah, I know that one. That's that horrible chord that I try to avoid. Well, guess what? You can't. You have to learn how to play these things. Okay, so there's our E. There's our root note. If I put that there, it becomes F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C, C sharp, and finally D. All right. So, if you would have downloaded your paperwork, you will have seen that those inversions that I've just described are on here. Just an example to show you how it works. All right. The D is not on there, the simple D, because of course that's the one that you'll be playing open. All right. So that is what the cage system is all about. Now, clearly, you know, I mean, classical players do it that way all the time. Now, let me give it an example. Say, for example, when you listen to Sultans of Swing by Mark Knopfler. I'm not going to play all the bits and pieces. Well, the main chord sequence for the verse is D minor, C, B flat, and A. I'm doing it. C, B flat, A. That's how you'd play it open. Now he doesn't do it like that. He'll play his D minor there. And you will hear this shape, and you'll hear this a lot in rock and pop. There's your D minor, we know that one, but this one you might not be familiar with. You'll know it by sound. And you'll say, oh yeah, I know that. But what shape is that? You'll just see him doing this. Well, what he's doing there is, because he realises it's too hard to play a C like this, and it is too hard, nobody would bother doing it. I'm just doing this to show you. That's your C, that's your B flat, and that's your A. He's just taking parts of it. He's taking this bit, the bit of the bar, and that there. He's not bothering with the bass string. He's not bothering with this bass string here or this one down here. He's just going to concentrate on the 5, 4, 3 and 2. You get a shiver in the night. He's doing it like that. And when you see other people playing things like, you know, he's playing, what's that there? Well, it's D moved up. What's the chord? It's D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G. Now, when I was a youngster, my younger days, I bought a book, because Beatles Complete, all my pocket money, because I wanted to play Here Comes the Sun. And I bought this book, it's about 13 quid, and it was a lot of money then, from a place called Frank Hessie's in Liverpool. Very, very well known music shop. All the Beatles and all the bands of that era bought their stuff there, including me. And I bought this book, and I went home because I wanted to learn how to play Here Comes the Sun. And it told me that it was in the key of A, so I went along, and I know A, of course, and I'm about 13 years old, and I'm listening to George Harrison playing it, and I'm playing, little darling, it's been a long, and I'm playing along with the record, and I'm thinking, well, it sort of sounds right, but it doesn't sound like George Harrison. What is wrong with this book? You know, so I took it back to the shop, and the gentleman behind the counter, Jim Gretti, his name was, a very famous man. He served everybody. He could sell anything to anyone. He was a great player. And he explained to me, he took the time, and he said, no son, he goes, it is in the key of A, but you need to use a capo. Now, I didn't know what a capo was. I thought it was something that you put on your head, you know. And he went on to explain, he goes, no, you use one of these. He goes, do you know how to play the shape D? I looked at him with a little bit of disdain. And I said, well, yes, Mr. Greta, I do. And he said, well, and he explained, he said, well, okay, so we're looking to play in A, aren't we? I said, yes. He goes, well, you play the D shape like this, and you go D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A. And he explained about, you know, as I've just done with you about and he goes, and you put your capo there to take the place of this. And that shape, although it's the shape D as you know, is now the chord A. And I played it. And I said, well, that's brilliant now, thank you very much. And I said, but the next chord, it's A. I said, the next chord is a D. And he said, well, you know, play a G shape. And I said, well, that's a G. And he said, no, it's not. And he explained that when you move it up there, as we just did before, that G shape played there, remember the root note? That's now a chord D. And I said, well, what about the final chord, the A7th? And he goes, well, it's not an A7th when it lives there. It's an E7th. Because of, you know, this type of thing. And that's how that's how I learned how important it was. And as soon as I knew that, it opened up the whole world of using a guitar capo. Now, of course, and it works with minors and majors and all that sort of stuff. You know, this is just a brief overview of how important it is. I use Side Here Comes the Sun as an example because it's a perfect example. Okay, so we have now discussed the cage system. Please learn it because it really is important, and get to experiment with your capos. And of course, it's even, say for example, you were playing a song and there's 3 chords in it: C, F and G. And you're a beginner, you've never played that much before, and you think, Christ, why have I got to play an F? You know I've only been playing for a few minutes. You know, C, F and G, I can't play C, F and G. You know, so I would say to you, I would say in typical Liverpool fashion, well, calm down. Don't stress yourself. I said, you're going to play, I said, do you know how to play A, D and E? And you'd say, well, yeah, I know that. They were the first ones I learned. I said, well, we'll use those shapes then. Chill. So I would do this. I would say, well, we'll put a capo on at the, what fret? What am I? C. What did I say we were going to do? C, F and G. So I'd put a capo there. And I'd say, well, we're going to play A, D and E. So while he's playing C, F and G, you can do that and it'll be... And then I would explain what I was doing. Well, that chord there, which you know as A, as a shape, it's not A anymore. Because it's A there. A sharp, B, C. The F, which is the dreaded F, we're going to play a D shape. And he'd look at me or she and say, well, what are you talking about? That's a D. I'd say, no, it isn't. D, D sharp, E, F. And of course the G would be what we know as an E shape here. So although I'm playing the shapes A, D and E, I'm actually playing the chords C, F, G. So if you've got a mate that's just started playing and there's a song with C, F and G in it and you're doing this, and you want them to join in, you can do what I've just done and put the capo on at the 3rd fret and do it that way. Or you could say, somebody say, well, I don't know the A shape and the D and the E. Say, all right, well, again, fear not. If we put the capo at the 5th fret and we played our G shape there, there's our G shape, but it's now the chord C. How do we know that? Because this finger, the root note, is playing the note C. It tells us C. If I play the chord C there now, that's going to be the F. No, it's not. It's a C shape. I can hear you saying, so, well, no, it isn't, because this note here now is pointing at the F note. So it's the shape C, but it's now the chord F. C, F, and the chord G would be the D shape. You'd say, but that's a D. I'd say, no, it isn't. And I'd go all the way up the neck and I'd explain that by the time we get to there, it's actually the chord G. Okay? C, F, G. C, F, G. Well, shake it up, baby, now. Okay, C, F and G there. Twist and shout. Come on, come on, come on, come on, baby, etc. All right, so there we are. The cage system. But hopefully you can see how useful that is, where you can you can avoid bar chords by knowing how to use a capo. I do it all the time. I don't want to be struggling and playing a horrible bloody bar chord if I can avoid it, you know, and that's why we use them. That's why they were invented. All right. The only style of music where you would never see one being used is in classical music and jazz, because you know it's just, you just don't use them in those particular genres of music. Right. On Saturday, this Saturday, it's Wednesday, well no it's not, it's Thursday. I tried to put this video up last night and completely ballsed it up. I don't know what happened, but it stopped halfway through, so I felt rather silly when people were contacting me. So that's why I'm doing it today, Thursday. On Saturday, this Saturday coming, I'm doing a live stream, and it's a special live stream because I'm celebrating my 50th year. Can you believe that? 50th year in the music industry. Continuous, never been out of work. I've always managed to make a living out of the music business. So if you're interested in knowing how I've managed to keep going for that long without having to sort of go busking and all that sort of stuff, then maybe if you tune in we'll find out. Okay, so that's happening on Saturday, and any questions you've got, whatever it is, you can, you know, ask me about the cage system, and ask me about anything you like. All right, it's going to be fun. So that's happening on Saturday. Thank you for your company today. Look at all the other masterclasses. I've done 8. This is the final one in the series of 8. Maybe I'll do some more. I'll have to wait and see how we get on. All right, but enjoy this one. Do not sort of skip bits with this. Try and really get into it, because I promise you, you'll be glad you did. All right, so thank you for your company, and I shall see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe. Cheers.